The roar of motorcycles cut through her screams like thunder through silence. In that moment, when rough hands grabbed her arms and the world tilted toward darkness, salvation arrived wrapped in leather and chrome, from the last place anyone would expect. Sarah Mitchell's hands trembled as she fumbled with her phone outside the community center. The evening had grown dark faster than she'd anticipated, and the parking lot that had been full of families just an hour ago now sat eerily empty. She'd stayed late helping Mrs. Chen pack up donations for the homeless shelter, losing track of time the way she always did when helping others. The 24-year-old social worker had made it halfway to her Honda Civic when she heard the van's engine rumble behind her. She didn't think much of it, not at first. But when the white van suddenly swerved in front of her, blocking her path, every self-defense video she'd ever watched flashed through her mind in rapid succession. Two men jumped out before she could react. The first one was tall, with a spider web tattoo crawling up his neck. The second was stockier, his eyes cold and calculating. Sarah's scream pierced the evening air, but the industrial area was deserted. No witnesses. No heroes. Just her and them. "Get in the van," Spiderweb hissed, his grip tightening around her wrist until pain shot up her arm. Sarah kicked, clawed, and screamed louder. Her purse fell to the ground, contents scattering across the pavement. Her phone skittered under a nearby car, taking her lifeline with it. The stocky man grabbed her other arm, and together they started dragging her toward the van's open door. This couldn't be happening. Not to her. Not after she'd spent her entire day helping vulnerable people escape their own nightmares. Then she heard it, a sound that started low and distant but grew into a thunderous symphony. Motorcycles. Dozens of them. The two men froze, their heads snapping toward the street as a wave of headlights rounded the corner. The bikes moved like a pack, their engines creating a wall of sound that vibrated through Sarah's chest. She felt the men's grips loosen slightly, their confidence wavering. The motorcycles formed a semicircle around them, cutting off any escape route. The riders were exactly what Sarah had always been told to fear, large men covered in tattoos, wearing leather vests adorned with patches, their faces weathered and stern. The Devil's Guardians, their vests proclaimed. She'd heard of them, this biker club that locals whispered about in hushed tones. The lead rider cut his engine and dismounted. He was massive, easily 6'4", with a gray beard that reached his chest and arms like tree trunks. His vest indicated his name, Brutus. Behind him, at least 20 other bikers killed their engines, the sudden silence almost as intimidating as the noise had been. "I think the lady said no," Brutus's voice rumbled like distant thunder. Spiderweb tried to maintain his bravado. "Mind your business, old man. This doesn't concern you." Brutus took one step forward. Just one. But it was enough to make both men flinch. "See, that's where you're wrong. When we see someone in trouble, it becomes our business. Especially when it's a woman being grabbed against her will." He paused, his eyes narrowing. "Now you've got two choices. Let her go and walk away, or stay and explain yourselves to the police we already called." Sarah could hear the sirens now, faint but growing closer. The stocky man swore under his breath and released her arm. Spiderweb held on a moment longer, his jaw clenched in defiance, before finally shoving Sarah backward. She stumbled, but a woman biker with kind eyes and silver-streaked hair caught her, steadying her with surprising gentleness. "We were just asking for directions," Spiderweb lied, already backing toward the van. "Sure you were," another biker called out, holding up a phone. "And I'm sure this video will show exactly that when we hand it over to the cops." The two men practically dove into their van, tires squealing as they sped away. But three of the bikers were already on their motorcycles, following at a distance while staying on the phone with police, reading off the license plate number. Sarah's legs finally gave out, and she sank to her knees. The silver-haired woman, her vest said, Phoenix, knelt beside her, placing a protective hand on her shoulder. "You're safe now, honey. Just breathe. You're okay." Tears streamed down Sarah's face, the delayed shock hitting her all at once. She'd been seconds away from being trafficked, disappeared, or worse. The what-ifs crashed over her like waves. Brutus approached slowly, making himself smaller somehow despite his size. He retrieved her scattered belongings, carefully collecting her wallet, keys, and using his phone's flashlight to locate hers under the car. When he handed everything back, his rough hands were surprisingly gentle. I'm Marcus, he said, using his real name. Marcus Webb. This is my wife, Diane. He gestured to Phoenix. We were heading back from a charity ride for children's hospitals when we saw what was happening. Sarah wiped her eyes, trying to process the surreal situation. I always heard that biker gangs were dangerous. Diane finished with a knowing smile. We get that a lot. But the Devil's Guardians isn't a gang, we're a club. A family. Most of us are veterans, teachers, nurses. Marcus here is a retired firefighter. We do charity rides, escort abuse survivors to court, protect people who need it. As the police arrived, Sarah learned more about her unexpected saviors. The club had started 20 years ago when Marcus and a group of veterans came home struggling to readjust to civilian life. They'd found purpose in helping others, in being the protection they wished they'd had for their own families. They worked with women's shelters, raised money for victim services, and patrolled areas known for trafficking and violence. The police took statements and informed them that the 3 bikers who'd followed the van had successfully tracked it until police could intercept it. The 2 men were already in custody, and their van was full of zip ties, duct tape, and other horrifying evidence. Sarah's testimony, combined with the video evidence, would likely put them away for a long time. As the police finished their report, Sarah turned to Marcus and the other bikers who'd waited with her. How can I ever thank you? You saved my life. Marcus shook his head. You don't need to thank us. But if you want to do something, keep doing what you do. Diane asked around while we waited. You help people every day at that community center. The world needs more folks like you. Sarah thought about the assumptions she'd made in that first moment, seeing the leather and tattoos and feeling a spike of additional fear. She'd been taught to judge them, to fear them. But they'd been the ones to stop, to help, to care when it mattered most. I volunteer at the community center, she said suddenly. We're always looking for partners for our programs. Would your club ever want to be involved? Diane's face lit up. We'd be honored. Over the following months, the Devil's Guardians became fixtures at the community center. They taught self-defense classes, provided security for evening events, and escorted vulnerable individuals who needed protection. Sarah introduced them to Mrs. Chen, and they began helping with donation drives and food distribution. The story of Sarah's rescue spread through the community, challenging assumptions and building bridges. People learned that heroism doesn't always look like what we expect. Sometimes it arrives on motorcycles, covered in leather and tattoos, with hearts as fierce as its protective instincts. Sarah kept a photo on her desk, her surrounded by the club members at a charity event, all of them smiling. Whenever she looked at it, she was reminded that in humanity's darkest moments, light can come from the most unexpected places. Sometimes the people who look the most intimidating are the ones with the courage to stand between evil and the innocent, asking nothing in return except the chance to make a difference. And she'd learned the most important lesson of all: never judge a book by its leather-bound cover.